Do you need to set up project governance for your project? Well, let's talk about why you do it, how you do it, and what you actually do. What are the steps you need to do? So first of all, why would you do it? Governance may be dictated by your project rules or your organization's rules. It might also be something you want to do for your project to make it better, and in fact it does. Here's why. One of the things it does is align the goals with the outcomes. That's because governance should include people who understand both the business needs and the project itself. Next, it can help you confirm roles and responsibilities, not necessarily those on your project, but those above your project. Who is actually running the project? Who are the decision makers? How do you escalate issues? All of that. Very important for projects. And also it provides the project manager the authority to act when you need to spend your contingency, when you need to ask for a new asset acquisition, or when you need to change something about the project, like the staffing headcount. So having governance is actually a protection to project managers. But a couple of things to consider before you set up governance. One is, what are your organization's rules for governance? Who should be on the governance board? And also, what do you want to get out of the governance? In other words, are you a big enough project, a complex enough project, an important enough project to your organization to merit having senior executives on your governance? You'll need to figure out what's the goal of governance. Is it to keep you on scope, budget, and time? Or is it something more important to the organization, such as realizing the business case's strategy, making sure the project is executed in accordance with either corporate or regulatory requirements, making sure the processes and ways of working are consistent with the product being delivered, making sure that the project's escalations are handled in a timely manner so that the project moves forward, or even managing stage gate. And this is something boards or steering committees do quite a lot. They actually approve big projects to move forward to the next step. So the first question is, how do you set up a steering committee or a governance board? Both of these terms are used interchangeably in project management. Well, first of all, you want to define the committee's purpose, their responsibilities, who's on the committee, and also where they're getting their subject matter expertise from. These aren't just random people. These are people, one, who have a stake in the game so that the outcome of the project is very much something they care about and is important to their careers, hopefully. But also people who have skill sets so they can make good judgments. And thirdly, people who have the right to act. So if they're getting a request to make a decision or escalate an issue, that's part of their job. They have the authority to do that, and they have the right level and political influence to do that. That's always best. Next, you need to establish the decision-making process. In other words, how much authority do they have and how much authority does the project manager have? And also, what are the roles on the steering committee? Generally, there's a project owner and several other kinds of people, but who is actually doing what and where is the project manager playing a role here? We'll get into that in just a minute. I should add that steering committees don't take a lot of time. In theory, it should be a meeting once a month or once every other week, but in fact, reading the material, dealing with issues might take a little bit more time. So people need to be able to give that amount of time that the project needs to succeed. That's the reason the steering committee exists in the first place. Next, you need to set up the kind of reporting the steering committee needs to get, the governance body needs to get before each meeting. Now, this can be handled in lots of different ways. It could be something as simple as looking at the project charter or the business case along with the current project plan. But generally, steering committees want to kind of hone in to what's important for that meeting. So I've suggested this example, which I'm going to take you through right now. One of the things you're going to want to do when you start the steering committee is figure out the type of reporting, the frequency of reporting, and what the baseline is. Getting agreement about that on one of the first meetings you're going to have with the steering committee is really important, because if you're testing KPIs and other things, you need to do that against a certain baseline. So either agree with the business case, the charter, or something else. But either way, getting that baseline is critical to making sure all of your reporting and the conversations that follow in the steering committee make sense. Let's check out this card, the Project Steering Committee Summary. This is kind of a dashboard that has a whole lot of parts on it. So first of all, you're giving an overall status here on the left with your status update. Also, the key areas you want the steering committee to review in this meeting. And you're also giving input, Maybe you're giving technical input during build, but you're giving user input during the stage gate where you're actually doing user testing or preparing for user testing. And you might include a few graphics to indicate what the status of that is. So that first page sets the scene. And this next point is the project status versus the business case. Those top 3 boxes are actually showing the realization of the project. What is the project's value add to the company? The next part is the total cost to date and the percentage economic value add, which is basically showing where we are in terms of the cost of the project against this value add, this blue box that says the total sales revenue that they mean to have at the end of the project. Adoption of the project, so how well the users are either being trained or satisfaction of the product, any of those kind of values can show how well is your project doing in terms of meeting the user's needs. Cost takeout could be another representation of a business case need. Maybe costs needed to be reduced inside the company. Here you're reflecting how those costs are going to be taken out. You might even add percentages or absolute values here. Next is the project budget versus actual. So that's actually tracking costs. Reuse of code and rework code. Now that has a lot to do with first-time quality. Reuse of code is the amount of times you can leverage code over again for similar kinds of work. Reworked code is code that didn't work the first time or became buggy and you had to fix it. This is a number, of course, you want to keep down. But this overview gives the steering committee on one page a real understanding of sort of where's the project from their chair. Project document review is the next part. Now this really focuses on the big picture because that's what steering committees should work on. Boards focus on the big picture because they've got to make the big decisions. The day-to-day stuff should be handled by the project team and the project management. So what we want to focus on here are, for instance, the stage gates that the board is going to be asked to review over the period of the project. So you can see here we're talking about stage gates 1 through 4. We're talking about what's happening in each of those stages and also what the status is of each of those stages. This can be helpful in making sure that you're setting the scene with the board early on to make sure that they know what kind of decisions are they being asked about in each of those stages. Now you'll notice here in our scenario, we say that stage gate 3 is actually under approval for this meeting. And you'll see that reflected in some other documentation as well. Next, you need to get to the nitty-gritty. Why are they having this meeting? Now this may be done in the form of meeting minutes, but it can also be done in this kind of slide. You will, however, need meeting minutes to document the detailed conversations that happen, and you'll need to have detailed documents that reflect some of the decision-making pros and cons that they'll need to review. And to do that, you might actually use some of your core project documents, such as the project plan or a system change decision document like this, which is available in my ProjectSkillsMentor Project Manager's Toolkit pack. And if you go to my blog, you can get a free downloadable of that full toolkit. You can also get a link, by the way, to the blog where I talk about SteerCo and see more about these documents I'm showing you now. So in this steering decision document, you're going to focus on the left about what decisions you need the steering committee to address, and on the right, what decisions they've made, what have they approved, and what do they need to review. It's true, not all decisions can be made in that 1-hour meeting. So you're going to need to decide, do you need to actually go out and get more information? Or do you need to have a subject matter expert come in to talk more with the steering committee in order to address the issue they have about that topic? And then finally, and I find this helpful to do for a lot of different reasons, it's nice to actually have a document of who is in the committee. This helps when the committee decides to add someone or take someone out, but it also helps people to understand what their role is in the committee. What you need to do here is set the scene for their borders, their scope of influence, and make sure that they know that they're participating not just in decision making, but in actioning not only decisions, but escalations, as mentioned earlier. Having this information can also be helpful so the team knows who's in the steering committee, so when they get someone contacting them from the steering committee, they know who that person is and why they're going to be contacting them. And also, if you're talking to other groups, sometimes it's good for them to know who is in your steering committee for political reasons and other reasons of communication. And certainly in your first steering committee meeting, this information is really helpful to set the scene, especially if the committee members don't know each other. So you've got everything you need. You've got the people and you've got the reporting. Now, how do you run the meetings? Well, if you want to run productive meetings, I've got a video for that. I'll leave the link here in the card. and in the comments below. If you want to run a productive meeting, you're going to have reporting out before the meeting, send out enough information that it doesn't overwhelm, but they can make the right decisions. And finally, you're going to want to ask for questions in advance so that you can prepare for answering those questions during the meeting. In fact, if you're worried about a particular topic or approval, make sure you're talking with your project sponsor or owner before the meeting and that steering committee member beforehand, because you don't want to have a lot of drama in the meeting. Nobody likes surprises, so don't surprise people during that meeting. They should be reviewing the content and making a final decision, not being surprised and having to learn some new fact that they weren't expecting to learn in that meeting. You'll also need to facilitate the meeting. So take them through each of the steps, each of the documents, make sure the questions are answered, and then come to a decision. But a few other comments I want to make about governance meetings. Like any other meeting, they can get out of control, they can get emotional, they can get into the blame game. Especially if you've brought in a member of your team, make sure you're protecting that member. So if they're looking for blame game from the steering committee to that member, or if they're talking badly about the project or making things very confusing for that team member, don't let that happen. Control the steering committee. You want to keep your team high performing. So they're there to answer questions, not to be attacked. Make sure you protect your people. Also, keep your steering committee on track. If you need to have 5 decisions out of that meeting, you need to leave with 5 decisions or have a plan for reviewing something that's still open, as I showed in my example. So make sure you keep them on track so they can fulfill their mission. So in summary, governance is a great way to protect your project, yourself, and your team, and especially the company's goals and the end product that you're delivering. But you need to do it right, you need to have a good plan, you need to have the right people on your steering committee, and you need to have governance management and governance meeting management, including great reporting that is fit for purpose. If you want to know more about that, please go to my blog. I'll leave the link below. And maybe you're saying, hey, this is great. I've got a governance plan now, but I need something for my suppliers to manage them. Well, you're in luck. Watch this video next and you'll have everything you need. And I'll see you next time on ProjectSkillsMentor.com. Bye-bye, everybody.